Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendova.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, the history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Tuesday, July 16th, 2019. We have got a lot to talk about today. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. It is the 50th anniversary of the launch of Apollo 11. And it was a massive, massive effort 50 years ago. Was 400,000 people working on Project Apollo, and I'm sure that everybody who worked on Apollo in any capacity is looking back with a great deal of pride at what was accomplished then. So obviously on the 20th, we'll be talking about the landing and the walk on the moon. Alrighty, for those in Arkansas, Storm Barry is causing a huge amount of problems. It's flooding the swamps. Arkansas Police Station and an animal shelter washed out highways, and floodwaters rose over the hoods of cars in the parking lot of the police department. Spokesman for the department told weather.com water was also getting into the building, and apparently water got into the Nashville City Hall and the road in front of it. In Gurdon, Arkansas, water flowed into a handful of businesses along Elm Street. Flooding at the Clark County Humane Society in Arkadelphia, Arkansas, killed at least one dog, and others were in danger of drowning in hypothermia. Apparently, other dogs and puppies were swimming for their lives in their kennels. Supposedly, they have now been rescued. Okay, let's get to Jeffrey Epstein here just a little bit. And yesterday, during the bail hearing, prosecutors revealed that Jeffrey Epstein kept a fake Saudi passport in a home safe along with diamonds and piles of cash. Now, the passport had expired, but it still raises the question, why did he feel he needed a fake passport? Does he in fact have others? Which raises the question, is he a flight risk if he's granted bail? And the obvious answer would be yes. It also emerged that Epstein invested millions in a deal with former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. Now, Barak acknowledged that he, like other world leaders, visited Epstein's island, and that it was first introduced to Epstein by Shimon Peres, the former Israeli Prime Minister and President. Now, Barak's high-tech company financed by Epstein is called Carbine. The Israeli enterprise develops call handling and identification capabilities for emergency response systems, essentially gaining access to your phone, the GPS system, and its cameras. And we now know that Epstein was very excited by cameras, especially the ones that got him blackmail information here. Okay, story coming out of chimpplanet.org. The media is working overtime to convince viewers that President Donald Trump was BFFs with Florida billionaire Jeffrey Epstein, but former President Bill Clinton is the one who allegedly took over 24 mystery flights to on Epstein's private jets, and apparently on at least 5 times ditched his Secret Service protective detail to go on escapades with the billionaire down to the island. So, yep, we keep that story going just in case Hillary's thinking of running in 2020. And of course, behind it all, there is a question: who protected Epstein? Because somebody somewhere gave a cost of that order to back off, to leave it alone, that Epstein was above his pay grade, that Epstein was connected with intelligence, and he was being protected by somebody. Mossad, maybe. CIA, maybe. Maybe both. There's nothing in the world of espionage says you're working for just one agency. And so he obviously had these kind of connections, and somebody with a lot of juice was able to tell the Florida prosecutors back off and give him a wrist slap for abusing all those underage girls. And that's a question. We want to know, who was that? Who protected Epstein? Where did that juice come from here? All right, former Italian model Elisabetta Tai said that when she met Jeffrey Epstein in 2004 in his Manhattan mansion, he basically stripped naked and handed her a vibrator, and she threw the vibrator at Epstein, ran out of his home, and on her way out, Tai said a woman resembling Epstein's alleged madam, Ghislaine Maxwell, told her she couldn't leave. And she said, this man is important. He's a friend of President Clinton. So they were using President Clinton's name back then to keep the girls in line. What a slime ball here. ABC host George Stephanopoulos is also dealing with his own Epstein scandal, if you will. Apparently, about a year after Epstein got out of jail for pleading guilty to soliciting an underage prostitute, Stephanopoulos had dinner with him. And Stephanopoulos said, that was the first and the last time I've seen him. I should have done more due diligence. It was a mistake to go. And yeah, hanging out with Epstein is a little bit of a stain in your character. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Here's an interesting little story. Businessman Ed Butowski has filed a lawsuit yesterday that outed Fox News reporter Ellen Ratner as his source for the Seth Rich information. And this comes after Michael Isikoff's report last week that labeled Butowski as a Russian source. Ooh, he's a Russian source. You don't want to listen to him. So Ed told the Gateway Pundit that Ellen Ratner lied to Isikoff. Ed provided the Gateway Pundit with a copy of his email with Ratner. And Butowski added that he spoke with Isikoff off the record, and he broke his trust by contacting Ratner. So Butowski told the Gateway Pundit that after last week's report, he was forced to speak out. And Ed also says he has more evidence that Ratner was his source on the Seth Rich information. Butowski claims Ratner gathered the information on Seth Rich after contacts with WikiLeaks officials. So that story may be coming back into the current news as well. What happened to Seth Rich? Well, of course, as you know, the official story is it was a botched robbery where they shot him in the back twice, and he died at the hospital, and the robbers left his wallet, his watch, and his cell phone, and his neck chain. So that's the botched robbery story. I think most people understand that this was probably a hit because Seth Rich was the leak that was taking files from the DNC servers and providing them to WikiLeaks. And we know it wasn't really a hack by the Russians or anybody else because of the timestamps on the copied files. They're simply too quick to have been downloaded over the internet. They were obviously copied off onto a high-speed flash drive. Okay, I'm looking at our little text window from our control room in Austin, Texas. They're under Storm Barry too, and they're saying they had massive rain, but they got about 2 inches there. So yeah, they got lucky. As you know, there is this big kerfuffle going on about sending people back to their country of origin, which doesn't really make a lot of sense because of the squad that is presumed to be the brunt of Trump's ire. Only Ilhan Omar is from outside the United States of America. But apparently over at CNN, they were suggesting sending Melania Trump, Ted Cruz, and Marco Rubio back to their native countries. So this is getting a little bit out of control. Meanwhile, it turns out Ilhan Omar's father and other Somalian war criminals are now living illegally in the United States of America. Okay, let's see. Okay. All right, Iran announced last week that they're going to be enriching uranium to 5%, which is over the 3.67% limit set by the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action signed in 2015 under the Obama administration. Now, 5% is still in the range used for reactor fuel. It is far, far less than that needed for a nuclear bomb. Now, Iran has every right to go over that cap since the U.S. pulled out of the deal over a year ago and reinstated sanctions on Iran. But if you look at the headlines in the corporate media, you would never know Iran was exercising its rights under the treaty and under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Agreement. The media is still out there saying, how dare Iran break the deal that we walked out on? They're not allowed to do that. We can walk out on the deal. We're the United States of America, but Iran can't do that. Iran is being bad. Iran is being evil. So, the United Nations has expressed to the United States it is concerned by tight travel restrictions on Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif during his visit to New York this week. Apparently, the United States has imposed some severe restrictions on where he can go and what he can do. And what's really interesting is Mike Pompeo was asked about this, and Pompeo said that he would tell Iranians we care deeply about them, we're supportive of the Iranian people, we understand that the revolutionary theocracy is not acting in a way that's in their best interest, which is just a flat-out lie. Just like the lie about Saddam's nuclear weapons, the lie about Assad's sarin gas, this idea about, oh, we're invading your country because we care about you. They've used that one so many times. So many times. Yes, we're coming into Venezuela because those poor, suffering Venezuelan people, they need us to change their government for them. What a crock. And it is a crock, and it stinks mightily. All right, Israel has now filed a legal case in a bid to stop a mechanism set up by the EU designed to bypass U.S. sanctions on Iran and salvage the nuclear deal. Now, Shurat Hadin Israel Law Center, which is an NGO dedicated to representing the victims of terrorism, will file on behalf of two families a lawsuit against the Instrument in Support of Trade Exchanges, the INSTEX. INSTEX was launched in January and became operational in June, was set up by Germany, France, and Britain to help Iran bypass the sanctions. And Israel wants that shut down because Israel wants the United States to go to war against Iran here. Now, there's a little bit of mystery over in the Gulf. Over in the Strait of Hormuz, an Emirates-based oil tanker vanished from the radar, and everybody's wondering, is Tehran to blame? Now, the oil tankers, Panamanian flagged, named the Rhea, usually transits oil from Dubai and Sharjah to Fujairah, a trip of just under 200 nautical miles that takes a tanker like this a day and a half at sea. And it reported its position off the coast of Dubai on July 7th, but then all of a sudden it disappeared. Now, shipping radar, like aircraft radar, look at transponders, and it may be that this tanker simply turned off its transponder as a security mechanism to make it harder to find them by anybody seeking to interfere with their passage. But the tanker is not showing up. I don't know why they're not looking for it with the skin paint. But everybody's out there already saying, oh, this is Tehran has seized this tanker. They've made it go away. They've sunk it. And again, it's more pro-war bovine excrement here. Speaking of oil tankers, Great Britain is saying that they are willing to release the Iranian tanker they seized off of Gibraltar if there are guarantees the oil will not go to Syria. And I'm sure that the operators of the tanker are perfectly willing to say, oh no, we're not going to go to Syria. Doesn't mean they're not going to go to Syria, but they could definitely say that. But it really is getting to be very intense over there with all of these sanctions and saying you can't send oil here, you can't send oil there, you can't use currency here, you can't use currency there. And it is leading to a crisis and a breaking point. All right, Representative Christopher Smith, Republican in New Jersey, has authored an amendment to the House version of the 2020 National Defense Authorization Act, which would require the Defense Department Inspector General's office to find out if the U.S. military experimented with using ticks and other insects as biological weapons between 1950 and 1975. And if such experiments took place, the amendment would require the Inspector General's office to tell lawmakers if any of the ticks or other bugs were released outside of the laboratory by accident or by experimental design. Now, you need to keep in mind, under U.S. law, the military is allowed to conduct biological weapons experiments on the general population without their knowledge and without their permission. And they have done so many, many times. They do it all the time out here in Hawaii because we're this little isolated island in the middle of the Pacific. And there have been some serious mistakes. There was a test of a biological weapons disbursement system in San Francisco some years ago that supposedly included what was deemed a harmless pathogen, which in fact turned out to be a little bit more serious, and some people wound up dying. But that is a reality of life in the United States. The military can, in fact, test biological weapons on you. And the concern here is that they took these insects, these ticks, they infected them with biological weapons, and then they released them. Now, given the range of dates, it looks like this representative is on to some specific information about this having actually happened. And I would not be surprised if it happened at all. So we'll see what happens. Now, the NDAA, there's a Senate version, there's a House version. They've got to bring them together and line them up, and then it goes to the president for a signature. And Trump is already threatening a veto over those portions of the bill that defund the war in Yemen and defund a potential war in Iran without congressional approval. Congress is trying to regain its constitutional authority over who goes to war and who does not. So that's a good thing here. All right, turning to the economic news here, a lot of people are looking at what's going on with Deutsche Bank. And Deutsche Bank's decline seems to have triggered a gold jump from 1285 to 1445. And a lot of people are wondering if Deutsche Bank actually collapses, could it in fact crash the global markets? We got to take a break now for commercials. We'll be right back.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We have an update on that story about the United Emirates tanker in the Strait of Hormuz. And it seems that the story is it suffered a major technical breakdown. which disabled its tracker mechanism, which is why it disappeared from the radar. The Iranians have said they have gone to the assistance of this ship. They have towed it into Iranian waters to effect repairs, and then they will let it go. So that's the story we're getting on that one. Getting on back to the economic news, half of Americans are not prepared for retirement. They're massively in debt and sinking fast. That is certainly true for a lot of people. I know a lot of people that are Claire and my age. We would love to retire. There's no way that we can. And we hear that from a lot of other people around us. It's just not possible. So that's another indicator our economy is not doing as well as the government and the corporate media are trying to insist that it is. Okay, India and Russia have agreed to use their own national currencies for defense deals in order to bypass U.S. sanctions. This is according to Bloomberg. And they're going to use their national currencies to transfer payments for their defense deals. And if they're doing that, then of course the U.S. sanctions would be unenforceable, because the U.S. sanctions only work for countries that are using dollars and using the SWIFT system. And more countries are refusing to do that because the United States is weaponizing the dollar and the SWIFT system. Okay. So let me do that. Okay, getting into immigration and the borders, Kamala Harris is trying to defend her position to decriminalize illegal border crossings. Kamala apparently wants it to be perfectly legal for somebody to just walk up to the border and step across and come into the United States of America. And this, of course, is complete, utter lunacy, because you don't know who that person could be. They could be a terrorist. They could be a criminal. They could be carrying a contagious disease. Even during the heyday of America's great immigration, Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island, there were still controls. There were still controls over who came into the country and who did not, and there were certainly medical checks. This idea of just opening up the borders and letting anybody walk in, the Democrats love it because it's going to provide them with all kinds of Democratic voters for which they're willing to sacrifice the national security of the country. Apparently, the situation at the immigration detention facilities has gotten so bad that doctors are walking off the job and just say, we can't deal with this anymore. They don't have the necessary equipment. They don't have the necessary supplies. The sheer volume of people coming through is simply too high. And they've had enough. They're just leaving. They're walking off the job and going someplace else. Over in Los Angeles, Mayor Garcetti has announced that, rest assured, we are not coordinating with ICE. So Los Angeles is another city that is refusing to cooperate with the mass deportations ordered by President Trump. That's a Title VIII violation, and Mayor Garcetti ought to be thrown in prison for it. That's a big part of the problem. There are laws on the books regarding illegal immigration. It's called Title VIII. And Trump needs to start enforcing them. Now, Lindsey Graham has come out with a statement talking about the illegal immigrants at the border, which he calls criminals, and he's right, they are. That's why it's called illegal immigration. And he says, I don't care if they have to stay in those facilities for 400 days. And I don't either. We are under no obligation to treat these people nicely when they are breaking the laws of the United States of America, when they are defying our border laws, when they're coming into our country without permission. We're under no obligation to be nice to them. We're under no obligation to give them medical care. We're under no obligation to take care of them in any way other than to throw them in a cage. All right, we're going to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington, too. You know, it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? I've always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. But I must admit lately, I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the 7 seas, yeah, I want to be a pirate.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And yeah, sometimes it does seem like being a pirate would be a really, really good idea. Just hoisting the Jolly Roger and sailing on out there with my my sword and my pistol and my pirate's hat that I've got out there, and everybody would say, "Where are your buccaneers?" And I'd say, "Well, they're under my buccan hat." That might be a lot of fun. Certainly a lot more fun than dealing with all of this stuff today here. Okay, apparently over in Maryland, there is a growing concern over the fact that police agencies have for years broken the law mandating reporting of excessive force and charges against officers, and apparently this was triggered by Freddie Gray's death from injuries suffered in police custody, the subsequent protests and rioting in 2015. And so state lawmakers have passed a law mandating police agencies across Maryland report when officers use excessive force or injure someone in cases of officers' criminal misconduct, among other cases. However, dozens of agencies, including the Baltimore Police Department, never did so. This resulted in extreme undercounting of such encounters in annual reports mandated by the law and collated by the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission. Well, I can understand the police not wanting to report on this kind of stuff, but if the law says you have to, yeah, you have to. Somebody should go to jail for that one here. Alrighty, the Trump administration has stopped taxpayer dollars from going to abortion referrals at publicly funded family planning centers on Monday. Now, Planned Parenthood, the nation's largest abortion provider, sued the administration along with 20 states and the District of Columbia in an attempt to stop Health and Human Services, or HHS, from diverting Title X family planning funding going to abortions. But the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, surprisingly, with 2 judges appointed by Trump, rejected the plea. And Planned Parenthood is saying this is a devastating blow to the 4 million patients who obtain birth control, cancer screening, and other essential care through Title X. Well, I think what Trump intended to do was to block the funding for the abortions, not the birth control, not the cancer screening, and not the other essential care. That's really what it's being targeted on. And, you know, I'm in agreement. Abortion is a complex issue, but I don't think abortions should be publicly funded. If a woman wants an abortion, she should just pay for it herself. As I recall, they're not that expensive. Tucker Carlson came out yesterday talking about what is observed on the left side of the political spectrum, including the Freudian idea that whatever you say you're doing is precisely what they're doing. And he said, I really think Antifa was maybe the moment when I figured it out. The guys who are literally armed with steel bars and have black masks on are calling the other people fascists. And he's absolutely right about that. Antifa act like the brown shirts who supported the rise of the Nazis. Okay, here. Story coming on out of Russia Insider talking about Holocaust education, saying basically it's an excuse to bludgeon everyone into accepting Jewish moral supremacy. And it basically talks about how the trend in the schools is to reduce the study of history to easily digestible, politically correct sound bites that are being pushed by social justice warriors. And history will soon be limited to discussing how horrible slavery was, which it was, the Stonewallian riots, and the so-called Holocaust. It seems that those who complain the loudest are the only ones listened to, and no one complains more often or at greater volume than an American Jewish group's intent on preserving the benefits that are derived from always being able to claim their perpetual victimhood. Now, there's another very revealing story. This is over at Renegade Tribune, saying the reason the Holocaust story was invented was to retroactively justify World War II. Now, World War II was by far the bloodiest and most destructive war in human history, and a lot of people wondered whether all of the death and destruction had been necessary. And the story of the Holocaust was used by the Allies to demonize Germany and prove that the war effort was necessary to defeat such an evil nation. So, all right, here's an interesting little story. And this is coming out of ProPublica. And it's basically talking about how more and more states around the Northeast are hiding 9/11 recordings from families, lawyers, and the general public. And they focus on a gentleman named Troy Phillips, who was trying to figure out what happened to his brother on 9/11 and figure out if he received CPR. And Rhode Island's secretive 9/11 laws have gotten in the way. And Rhode Island is saying, no, you're not allowed to listen to the recordings. You're not allowed to know what happened on that day. So, got something to hide there? Is there some kind of a secret that is being kept about 9/11? I would say probably, yeah. Okay. This one is really silly. There's this surgeon, Eugene Gu. He's notoriously anti-Trump. And he came out with a tweet on Friday saying it is a scientific and medical fact that men can get pregnant and also have abortions. Now, this is taking political correctness, I think, to a whole new level of insanity. This guy, who's a surgeon, actually came out and said, it's a scientific and medical fact that men can get pregnant and also have abortions. And he then followed up saying, trans men and non-binary individuals are human beings who deserve to be acknowledged by society. They choose their own identity, not me, not you, not any doctor, and certainly not any politician. Well, I think their gender identity is determined by their DNA, but that's just me. I'm being silly here. All right, we're going to take a phone call now from Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, Mike, after hearing that, when's the next space mission to the sun?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they've got one going on now. But they're going at night.
Mike, before I talk about anything, I got to talk about Tom from Florida. He called in and kind of criticized me, and also Nate. But I actually like them calling in, and I listened to the show. I know, Nate, you say you turn the radio show off or the YouTube feed off. I don't. I want to hear everybody's opinion, because if you don't, then you're living in a bubble. If you're only getting one side, your side, you know. But Tom from Florida, hey, Tom, you've been calling in complaining about all the illegal immigrants streaming in for months and months. And Trump, and he says, China, Joe, what do you want, China, Joe Biden in? Well, hey, Tom from Florida, nothing's been done. They're still streaming in, so I don't know what world he's living in, Mike. Like, it's not stopping. We've been talking about this for 6-8 months, and nothing's been done. Period. You know, I mean, I live in the real world. This is what I see. Trump, Bush, Clinton, Obama, it doesn't matter. If nothing's getting done, nothing's getting done. And people can criticize me for saying that, but nothing's getting done, and that's the reality of it. And also, Tom, what do you want, China, Biden? Hey, Tom, you know what China has that we don't? Brand new infrastructure, which is not even on the table in any time in the now and in the near future, because it's not happening. They got new infrastructure. They are a creditor nation. We're a debtor nation. That's the reality.
Well, China's a debtor nation now. They've gotten into debt, and that's partly because they were making so much of their money off of selling products to us Americans, but we no longer have the money to buy those products.
But they're also internally now building themselves up, because remember, Mike, they have 40 trillion in debt. We have 23 trillion and another 200 trillion in unfunded liabilities.
Yes.
So it's kind of like a race of just like crap, like who's going to get there first? I think we are, because we are the empire in decline per se, and they're a newer empire rising. But on Nate criticized me for saying Trump did this, U.S. Steel. Trump has nothing to do with U.S. Steel. Like, he doesn't work for U.S. Steel. He never will work for U.S. Steel. If U.S. Steel, like I think Frank called in, said U.S. Steel, these already are in, like, the works. But in a June 2019 article I read, that U.S. Steel, and you talked about this, they were shuttering 2 plants.
Yeah.
And then also in Britain, they shuttled a steel, because we're the 3rd largest steel industry in the world. We have 5% of the steel. China is like 80-something%. So you can't compete with that kind of number. It's a numbers game, And but he criticized me for saying, "Oh, Trump's done good stuff." But Frank also called in. He said, what's Trump done in actuality? He says he's going to do one thing, and then he pulls the plug on it. He did it just less than a week ago with the pharmaceutical drugs. I mean, I don't understand how people can't see this, Mike. Like, he's not following through with anything. And Mike, he says, "Oh, well, I'm from New Jersey. I'm a Democrat." Listen, I'm 48 years old. You know who I voted for the first time? Obama, because I got suckered into this hope and change. I got suckered into Trump's "Make America Great Again," and it ain't happening. That's it. Mike, I mean, I'm not a lifelong Democrat. I don't give a crap about Democrats and Republicans, I want to see a fair system. I want to see, I'm for health care, but I want to see the wars end. I want to see a border wall built, because, you got to protect your country.
Yes.
But I don't see any of this happening, and Trump's the one running the country. He's the one who puts people in. He's the one who's got John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, and Gina Haspel. He put them in. I didn't. He put these people in. He put the people in the FDA who said Monsanto's, the Roundup, glyphosate's safe. Now, if Trump is putting these people in and saying that, then that's Trump's responsibility, because he's the commander-in-chief. He's the one who's running that ship that runs into somebody. He's responsible
I agree.
for the whole ship. Yeah, but don't say, the people calling in saying I'm too rough on Trump or he does some things wrong, and then people say, "Oh, Trump is twittering, saying he's a little brash on people's." Trump shouldn't be doing that. He's the president of the United States. He should be above that. You got to be above the lesser of the crap coming out, because all these other people are crap too. The Democrats, like you know what I'm talking about, like and on Mark from, I know I'm switching a lot, but Mark from North Carolina on Tulsi Gabbard, she's the same, dude. Dude, until the system changes, it doesn't matter who's in. It's just all these people are just, they're going to become president, and they're just going to switch, because we already had Clintons, the Bushes, the Obamas, and Trump, and nothing's been fixed. It's the same. Nothing's getting better. How can you say the next president's going to do something, or the next person, woman, man, is going to change anything when it's the system that needs to be changed? I don't understand why people can't see that, Mike.
No, I agree with you. And next year, unless Hillary comes on in, and I'll be working against her, I'm just not going to get invested in any of the candidates. And I'll report on the candidates and what they're saying and what they're doing. But I really don't see myself getting enthusiastic about any candidate at all the way I did about Trump in 2016, because he has been such a disappointment.
And you know what hurts me, Mike? I'm a Catholic. I mean, I'm not a very religious person, but I think it was Tom, going back to Tom from Florida, somebody mentioned about, Trump did something with the abortion issue. Dudes, he given weapons to Saudi Arabia that drops bombs on women in Yemen who have babies. Come on now. I mean, it doesn't take a genius. You're arming people that want to kill you, okay? That's all I got to say, Mike. Have a good freaking show.
All right, thanks an awful lot here, and we got another caller waiting on the line, but I think I'm going to wait until after the next commercial break. Getting on back to the arena of political correctness, over the weekend, a man who identifies as a woman won 2 gold medals at the 2019 Pacific Games in Samoa for weightlifting. And I really do think it's time for this nonsense to stop. So this Laurel Hubbard, formerly Gavin Hubbard, won 2 gold medals and a silver in the 3 heavyweight categories for women weighing more than 192 pounds, finishing first in the snatch, lift, and combined categories and second in the clean and jerk. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms, or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356, or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
How healthy are your arteries? Deteriorating circulation has a number of early warning signs. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, fingers and or toes often go cold, arms and or legs often go to sleep, sharp diagonal crease in the earlobe, short walks cause cramping or pains in legs. Memory is not as good as it used to be, ankles swell late in the day, chest pain after physical exercise or emotional stress. If you experience even one of these symptoms, Your circulatory system is crying out for attention. Extendivite is a natural solution to help improve your overall health. Extendivite is not your average heart tonic. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight. Women and children alike.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're going to go back to the phones to Jim in Illinois. Aloha, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael. You know, Donald Trump continues to be very, very politically incompetent.
Yes.
Now, think about this. Before he sent out those racist tweets, and they were racist, the Democrats were fighting among themselves. Now they're united, and now also you have Republicans who are finally criticizing Donald Trump. If Donald Trump, if he thought by using the racist and other comments to bring his base together or support him, he's highly mistaken.
Yes.
I mean, the guy is despicable. He's a racist, deplorable, and everything else. But, you know, before those tweets happened, the Democrats were fighting among themselves.
Yes.
You know, and again, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, but you gave the Democrats a gift.
Yes, he did.
So, well, Michael, that's it. You take care.
All right, thanks an awful lot. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Trump gave the Democrats a target to pull them all together. It was a dumb move on his part, and it doesn't matter whether you agree with what he said or not. Politically, it was a very, very bad move. Okay, we're going to switch to Joe in Tennessee. Aloha, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, first of all, what Trump's tweet was not racist. It's being portrayed as racist by the left and the media because, of course, anything Trump does is racist. I mean, so let's get that. I mean, if you read it, there's no N-word. There's nothing really racist. He tells somebody to go back to their country and to solve their problems. But, you know, I'm really getting tired of all these people with Trump, how he's got to act above everything. I mean, let's face it, all the losers who've been giving Trump bad advice since he started running for president had said, oh, don't fight dirty, Trump. Be above it. Don't, you know, when they bring out the Access Hollywood, don't bring in Bill Clinton's rape advisors, the rape victims. Oh, that would be the wrong thing to do. Well, he did, and he won, and he's president, and he's winning. You know, I listen to Dustin. I like Dustin. But this stuff about being above it all, like Ron Paul. Oh, let's all be like Ron Paul, the lovable loser. That's what Republicans are supposed to do. They're supposed to be losers. They're supposed to roll over when they're called racist. Don't you get it?
Yeah.
We call them racist. We're the CIA-controlled media. When we decide to call somebody a racist, even though there's nothing racist in the tweet, we just say so. But, of course, everybody will say he should be above it and he should resign because that's the smart move to do. Although this guy's got to be one of the smartest minds politically that we've had in years. I mean, he's
I
president.
disagree with that. I mean, he's a smart mind, but he's not politically savvy, and he keeps proving that over and over again. Anyway, listen, Joe,
He's president.
we got to let you go. Got to take a break for station identification. Back with another phone call after these few words.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. We're going to go right back to the phones here to Jeff in Missouri. Aloha, Jeff. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Wow, Mike, thank you very much for your call. I've never called before, but I would like to make two points. One about the illegal immigration, the people coming across and how they're granted a certain legal status in the courts, yet they get welfare and all of that. I'm always one who is searching for historical precedents, and I'm a blind listener, and I have some children that I homeschool, so I read a lot of literature, audio, and then they do the paper and ink text. And I was reading To Kill a Mockingbird recently, and I was stunned. It has nothing to do with race. If you can put the racial aspect aside and look deeper into what this author was getting at, there were people who came into the public schools and said, I will have nothing to do with you people. I will never obey you. I will have nothing to do with you. They went out and collected relief. They went out and collected all of the holiday goodness that people would bestow upon them. Their food, their clothes, everything was provided for them. And they would raise up and say, we will have nothing to do with you. I will never obey you. They were the outlaws. Now, they went into court with equal status and raised false accusations and everything. So the fact that people would renounce the entire system of this country by crossing the borders and coming in and then getting welfare and having equal legal status, that's what Mockingbird was all about. So this is not new. It's extremely important to understand that. Now, as far as I see it, the legal system has been screwed up for a long time. Now, I want to make one closing comment. I know you're not a Christian. You're more of a secularist, and I will appreciate that because you've got a great program and you do have a lot of discernment. But I read the Bible with my children. We do the 1611 King James, and I've got a 4-year-old, 10 or 11, and we'll read a chapter, and I'll say, well, what'd you hear? My little daughter will say, well, I heard about camels. Well, I knew she was listening. That's all I care. I don't enforce any doctrine upon anybody. And my other children will read, and they'll say, well, I heard about this guy killed this guy, or whatever the case might be. But after we went through Genesis, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, the Moses books,
yes,
right? You know that much. I know you do. There was one thing that was a crash in the head aspect about Moses and the law was one thing. Everybody shall be under the same law. Whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you're white, black, green, purple, it doesn't matter. repeated constantly by Moses was, there shall be one law for the stranger, there shall be one law for the homeborn, there shall be one law for the poor, and there shall be one law for the rich. I say Moses was on target. And whatever indignities we feel about, whether it be Clinton flying off to Love Islands or with children, or whatever, the congressmen not being under Social Security, we have a multiplicity of different laws. Different people are under different laws. And that's what is causing us. Within our hearts, we are so knotted up because there is not an equal standard for all people. And I think that the Mosaic injunction that all shall be under the same law is what we need to get back. And it really doesn't matter. Suppose we're all under Islamic law and we're all a bunch of sultans. Well, I can take your daughters and you can take mine. Well, it just won't work, you know. We must have the same standard for all, and all hold everyone to the same standard. Hey, thanks for letting me vent.
Well, you're welcome, and I agree with you that there should be just one standard of law for the entire country, which is what the Founding Fathers intended. But over time, and this happens in a lot of countries besides the United States of America, you will find that the wealthy basically finagle ways where they can get away with things that ordinary people cannot. And we certainly saw that with the Clintons. We saw it with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes, but like I said, this has been going on for a long time. If you read To Kill a Mockingbird very carefully, you will see that there were subcultures that the legal system embraced. If they don't believe in our laws or embrace our laws, then they are exonerated from them. The only people who are under our laws are those who have obeyed it. It's really weird. Our legal system is so crazy, and it's been that way for a long time. It needs to be. We need to take a really close look and realize we are going to enforce one standard on everybody, and that's the end of it. Whether you're poor, whether you're rich, whether you can talk or whether you can't, the standard is going to be the same for everybody. And yeah, you can say, well, the rich have finagled the system and on and out. Basically, what they've done then is bought off the judges, is what you're trying to say.
Well, they buy off the judges or the prosecutors or other interested parties come in and say there's too much money involved in this individual. I mean, I saw this out in Hollywood where some people got away with some very serious crimes, but they were stars in major shows, and the studios would go in and say, look, there's a lot of money on the line here. If this person goes to jail, we're going to lose a lot of money. There's going to be a decline in tax revenues. And so we got to work something out here.
Right. I understand you've probably seen that, and I think that goes on all the time. But it's gone on for a long time. But anyway, you've allowed me to make my point, and I appreciate the time you gave me. So I'm going to let you go, Mike, okay?
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to do a shout-out now to our on-air affiliates who are rejoining our network. And we're going to go to Paul in New Jersey. Aloha, Paul. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael. Michael, concerning Donald Trump, listen, when I elected him, I wanted a leader, not a tweeter. Understand what I'm saying? I'm not impressed by his...
I love that phrase.
That's what I voted for. I wanted legislation. That's how we win. I wanted a balanced budget. Remember when he promised he would balance the budget?
Yep.
And then as soon as he gets in there and a budget came to him, he voted and approved and did not veto and went along with the Democrats and passed deficit spending. So that is not winning. We're not winning by his tweets. We're not getting anything other than a little theater, some funny jokes, a belly laugh, supposedly laughing at our political enemies. But like they used to say in the 80s during that campaign, I think it was in the Wendy's commercial, where's the beef? What has he delivered? What campaign promises he followed through? And by the way, maybe the way to get legislation through is not to insult everyone and try to work within the Republican Party and try to unify them to get legislation through. Maybe go to districts where you want to topple a congressman and put in a more conservative or more fiscally responsible conservative and go to those districts and hold those rallies there. How about using the bully pulpit and the veto pen, right? How about working behind the scenes and whatever kind of deals you have to make to just win over a few more senators or congressmen to get your legislation through, maybe wall spending, right? Maybe working with lawyers to find out, maybe he can use the I think it's called the McCarran-Walter Act of 1953 to close all immigration because he's the executive branch and the Constitution allows him, according to that act of the 1950s. I think it's called the McCarran-Walter Act.
Yes.
So I'm not impressed with tweeting. He's not doing anything for us. We want the meat and the potatoes. We want the delivery. That's winning. That's the definition of winning, not a tweet.
I don't even follow Trump's tweets anymore. I got sick and tired of them.
And one last thing before I go, Michael, is because the anniversary of the Apollo landing is coming up this week, I was wondering if you could dedicate like an hour of your show to taking on the moon landing debunkers.
I imagine we're probably going to get a flood of phone calls from people who think the Apollo landings were faked, and I don't know that I want to dedicate an hour to that. And I may take a few phone calls and then close the lines on that issue because I'm tired of having to make the same arguments over and over again. I mean, I worked on Apollo 12 post-mission. I'm absolutely convinced the missions were real. And yeah, on the 20th, we're definitely going to give Apollo a little bit of honor, if you will.
But that's the Saturday, unfortunately. So.
Well, we're going to do it on Friday.
Yeah. Okay, good. Because I'd like to hear people about it, and I'd like to hear some of the people who so-called truthers, just to let them think it through. I also definitely believe they landed on the moon, and I just would like to hear that group of people, like, just basically educated on how it's totally reasonable to believe they went to the moon and did, obviously.
Well, there's a lot of really good documentaries that are on right now about going to the moon and how difficult it was and the problems that they faced, and how the Fisher Space Pen Company actually lied about it being their pen that got Apollo 11 off the moon, when it was actually a felt tip marker. So there's a lot of information out there right now.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Fred in Iowa. Aloha, Fred. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hegelian dialectic.
Okay.
Are you aware or knowledgeable about the Hegelian dialectic?
I'm well aware of the Hegelian dialectic.
Okay, I'm going to be a naughty person, un-American. I'm not going to vote in the presidential election. I didn't in 16, and I'm not going to do it in 20. But I'll tell you who's going to get elected.
Okay. Give us your prognostication.
Trump. And not a damn thing will change. You know, for 3 years I hear the same thing, talking about Trump and talking about the liberal Democrats. The Democrats were putting Trump for his second term. The biggest ass that he has. And you know, I've called in 4 times on this subject in about 2 months or so. Okay, I went out on a limb. Trump will win the election. We're being played. And people, Jesus, don't understand. They just goes right over the head. Well, Trump does this, and Trump don't do this, and the Democrats do this. 3 years of this puke. He gave in, die electing. Thank you. Bye. Have a good day.
All right. Thanks an awful lot, Fred. We're going to let you go. And that isn't the exact application of the Hegelian dialectic, which is where you create a crisis and then you offer to sell a solution to it. Trump right now, I mean, he's certainly giving us the crisis, but he hasn't really offered a solution. I'm not as sanguine as Fred was about Trump's chances for re-election. Trump has basically turned his back on those who supported him in 2016, like Julian Assange, like the independent media. We're not going to get all fired up for him in 2020. The only way I'll get fired up for Trump in 2020 is if Hillary steps back on in. If Hillary doesn't step back on in, I'm going to sit this one out. I'm going to just kick on back and say my attitude is I'm not going to vote because it just seems to encourage the bastards. All right, apparently another American tourist has died suspiciously in the Dominican Republic. Apparently this was a man from Georgia, and he was drinking a soda, and he made the comment it didn't taste right shortly before he went into convulsions and died. So I think at this point they're dealing with a serial killer. For some reason the killer is targeting tourists at the tourist resorts, and the Dominican Republic police had better deal with this and get it solved, or their tourism industry is going to be in the Al-Qaeda. All right, over in San Francisco, the Electronic Frontier Foundation and Pierce, Bainbridge, Beck, Price, and Hecht LLP have filed a class action suit on behalf of AT&T customers in California to stop the telecom giant and 2 data location aggregators from allowing numerous entities, including bounty hunters, car dealerships, landlords, and stalkers, to access wireless customers' real-time location without authorization. Now, obviously, the bounty hunters want the location so they can grab these people who have skipped on their bail. The car dealerships want to track your location if you've bought your car on credit and you've missed a few payments. Now, I agree there's no reason for landlords to know your location in real time, and certainly not for stalkers. So, apparently an investigation by Motherboard earlier this year revealed that any cell phone user's precise real-time location can be bought for just $300. Hey, it's my location. I should get a piece of that, right? All right, we're going to go back to the phones to Jason in Grand Rapids. Aloha, Jason. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to call in and talk about online censorship. I think you guys have talked about how Google and YouTube have been censoring a lot of the small content creators on there who are sort of alternatives to the mainstream media.
Yes.
So I was wondering, for example, a lot of them have been moving over to new platforms like BitChute because of that, and so I think you guys recommended one alternative platform was VK, right?
Yes.
But so I people recommend I think VK and Brighteon, but I went on their websites and I was reading through their policies, and they say that they censor for similar things as YouTube, I suppose hate speech or something like that. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think censoring hate speech, I mean, it's a very gray area because it's subjective what constitutes hate speech. But Brighteon so far has a reputation for not censoring conservatives, and that really is a very important aspect.
But doesn't it seem like BitChute is better in that regard because like they don't they don't care what your view is. They just allow anyone to speak there, whereas like Brighteon, it seems like they're trying to make like a conservative website. You know what I'm saying?
Well, BitChute, again, it's a very good site, and you're right. They're not censoring at this point.
But I mean, like, isn't it important to create a website where anyone can speak freely instead of just a website where conservatives can speak freely?
Well, I think BitChute isn't censoring liberals.
Right. And so this is my point is like, I don't understand why people would promote Brighteon as opposed to BitChute is what I'm getting at.
Well, okay, Jason, we got to let you go and take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. gone. I mean, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment is...
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And once again, Republic Broadcasting is stand here with our little collection played out in front of you, asking for your support to keep us on the air, keep us broadcasting, keep us reaching out with the truth to the American people. So the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas 78664. The phone number where you can send a debit or credit card donation or pledge to be a recurring subscriber is 800-724-2719, extension 1 during business hours, extension 3 at all other times. The network thanks you. All right, getting on back into some of this computer stuff here. The FBI is now 99% certain that at least 5 foreign agencies hacked into Hillary Clinton's private email server. Now remember that other hacker, Guccifer, claimed that when he had broken into her server and that it was relatively easy to do, he saw at least 10 foreign IPs logged in, pouring through the files. But the FBI is now saying, to the best of their knowledge, apparently they're looking at the server, at least 5 foreign agencies hacked into Hillary's server. Now, that represents 5 violations of Title VIII of placing classified information where it could be discovered by people not entitled to read it. And intent is not required, just negligence. So Hillary should have been charged, and she can still be charged. She's never had her day in court. Double jeopardy does not apply. I just got an email from somebody about VK. The last caller was being ambiguous. VK is basically Facebook in Russia, and they may have hate speech provisions. But Brighteon is run by Mike Adams and does not censor hate speech. There was one incident when the New Zealand shooting occurred when the CDN Brighteon users demanded Brighteon remove all copies of the New Zealand shooter's video or else it would deplatform Brighteon. So Brighteon was forced to implement limited censorship of certain extremely violent videos, but it simultaneously announced it was responding to that threat from its CDN by beginning work on its own CDN, so that in the near future it would be able to allow unlimited free speech. So that's an update on what's going on over at Brighteon. Yeah, I remember that New Zealand shooting and how New Zealand was like imposing major jail time on anybody who had a copy of that video. Kind of makes you wonder what's in that video that they didn't want you to see. Probably indications that it was all a fake, all a fraud, another false flag here. Okay, story coming out of the Daily Mail. Driverless cars pose a significant safety risk because complacent humans are too busy on their phones, reading, or sleeping to take over in an emergency. Now, I would never have a driverless car. I want to be in control of the vehicle. I don't even like traction control. But I can see what the problem here is. You're letting the car drive itself. You're looking at your phone, or you're reading, or worse, sleeping. I mean, that is just stupid. And all of a sudden, an emergency happens. You have to look up and figure out what's going on first before you can take back control of the car and handle the emergency. There's a latency time problem there. It could take you 3-4 seconds to figure out what the heck is going on. So driverless cars, like so many other things, like facial recognition, was put out there before it's really ready. And when it's perfect, I might look at it, but it's not perfect. This idea that there are circumstances under which you're going to have to basically snap to, figure out what's going on, and take back control of the car. I just as soon have control of the car all along. Call me a Luddite, but I just as soon have control of the car all along. Okay, apparently over at the Pentagon, they're dealing with a major problem of child porn being shared on government computers. Hundreds of employees are implicated. Got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN @hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it. It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN @hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
Some have maxed out all their credit cards, some are working 2 jobs. to living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, distract yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far 5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're going to go right back to the phones here to Rick in Arizona. Aloha, Rick. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. I want to coin these women that are causing all this trouble, the Fab Four.
Yes.
I think this is a good distraction from the Trump-Epstein snafu. I see Trump and Epstein together in different pictures when they're out on the town, but I don't see any pictures of Epstein and Bill Clinton, and I don't see any evidence so far as these manifests on airplanes with Bill Clinton's name on it. I like evidence, but I do see Trump and Epstein, and I think these Fab Four have been put in very cleverly by organized Jewish groups. These women do not come to power and get this kind of fame and fortune without this kind of help. Just remember, the media in Washington is it's a Jewish business. And in the words of Papa Bush, this was back in 1990. He said that it was 1,000 Jewish lobbyists on Capitol Hill, and that was back in 1990. So this is not an organic growth of power in Congress. They have their reasons. I can't tell you exactly what they're up to. Just remember when Jeff Sessions took the job as Attorney General, they put in I think they replaced him with the opposite party. They were going to put in that judge, but he was bumped out by a Democrat, I think. So they've got their reasons for what they're doing here, but don't think this is some type of organic growth of power. And I just want you to thank you for taking my call.
Well, it's certainly entirely possible that the media is focusing on Trump's tweet and these four congresswomen so that they don't have to report on Jeff Epstein. Supposedly, we're going to find out in another couple of days whether he makes bail or not. And my gut is telling me that they may actually let him out on bail, at which point he's going to disappear and we'll never see him again. So, yeah, the news is always managed. They basically sit down and say, what do we not want the American people thinking about? And so what can we throw at them, as bread and circuses? And certainly things like, the pending war in Iran. They don't want Americans thinking about that because Americans are opposed to it. They don't want Americans thinking about the wars that are going on in Iraq and Syria and Afghanistan and Libya and Yemen. So, yeah, we're seeing a lot of focus on this political infighting. And apparently there was a major kerfuffle with Nancy Pelosi in the House of Representatives, where she basically walked off the floor, which is a violation of the House rules, and the House voted to strike her comments on Trump from the record. So it's getting intense there. It's getting very intense. Now, there are very strict rules in the Congress, and they go back to a time where there was this ugly incident where one member of Congress went after another one with his walking stick and just beat on him. And since then, that's why our Congress is so much more sedate than you see over in Parliament in Great Britain. Anyway, as we were talking before, hundreds of Pentagon employees have been implicated in this huge scandal for sharing of child porn on Pentagon PCs. Now, you own those PCs, you paid for them, and I'm sure you're not happy they're being used for this kind of a purpose. But again, where is this obsession with child porn coming from? And are these Pentagon employees, are they all perverts? Well, I mean, they're all basically in favor of war. That's why they're there at the Pentagon. But that's pretty disgusting, pretty slimy here. Okay, over in the European Union, they have their own version of GPS. It's called Galileo. And apparently 24 of the 26 satellites powering the European GPS went down for 4 days in what was called a mysterious outage. And we were seeing all these stories about, oh, it's Russian hackers, blah, 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 blah. But apparently they've now basically identified the issue, saying it was a technical incident that put Europe's satellite navigation fully offline since Friday, with most of the satellites powering the Galileo system broken. Now, Europe's Galileo system was built to replace or bypass the US GPS system, but during the outage, users were automatically switched back to the US system. And the Global Navigation Satellite Systems Agency said in a statement on Sunday that a technical incident related to its ground infrastructure had caused the problem. So apparently they're getting that back online. Over the last few days, you've probably been hearing about this call for 1 million people to storm Area 51 out in the Nevada desert and see them aliens. And the Air Force has taken this very seriously, and they've issued a warning saying Area 51 is an open training range for the U.S. Air Force, and we would discourage anyone from trying to come into the area where we train American armed forces. The U.S. Air Force always stands ready to protect America and its assets. This from Air Force spokeswoman Laura McAndrews. McAndrews declined to comment further on the military's plans in the event that people do flock to the area. Well, as it turns out, this was all a joke. And over on the Storm Area 51 Facebook page, the person there basically added a post saying, "Hello, U.S. government, this is a joke, and I do not actually intend to go ahead with this plan. I just thought it would be funny and get me some thumbs uppies on the internet." So, anyway, Area 51 is top secret. It's where they do a lot of testing of newly developed aircraft like the SR-71 was tested out there. They had a crash. The F-117 was tested out there. And they basically pushed the idea of UFOs in the region so that if you do see one of these new aircraft whiz by overhead, you'll run into town and say, "I just saw an alien spaceship," and everybody will ignore you, and they won't be paying attention to those hangars out there in the middle of the desert. But that's all Area 51 is. It's a testing area. And the only reason it's publicly known at all is there was a lawsuit for wrongful death where a worker was exposed to some very toxic chemicals and died, and his family sued. And that actually made Area 51 public in a court of law. Somebody picked up on it, wrote an article about it. Russian satellite photos were then published showing Area 51. But there's a lot of stuff out there in the desert, and it's not just Area 51. In fact, you can take Google Earth and go on out there and just take a look around there. And there's a lot of these little work areas and airfields that are out there in the middle of the desert, of which Area 51 is the largest and the most busy. Okay, over at CNN, they've published this unbelievably brazen and dishonest smear piece on Julian Assange. And this is the most egregious article of its kind since the notoriously bogus Assange Manafort report by The Guardian last year. It contains none of the exclusive documents which it claims substantiate its smears, relying solely on vague assertions and easily debunked lies to paint the WikiLeaks founder in a negative light. So, right now, CNN's ratings are continuing to decline. In fact, right now, there are more prostitutes in the United States than there are CNN viewers. Whether the prostitutes are watching CNN is another matter entirely. Okay. Over at the University of Miami, left-wing students were encouraged to sign a petition to change the Hurricanes mascot at the U of Miami because it's offensive to those hurt by hurricanes. Now, as it turns out, the petition was fake, wasn't turned on in, but they just wanted to see how many left-wing students would actually fall for it. And apparently quite a few did. We can't have a world in which we get rid of everything that offends anybody because there are too many people walking around whose entire self-worth is based on being offended by something. You just can't do that. You can't have freedom of speech and an offensive-free environment. The two don't go together. We have to go back to a world where we have freedom of speech, and if somebody's offended, you say, okay, be offended. I don't care. Why is being offended such a bad thing? Alrighty, over in the world of filmmaking, they're getting ready to release a new 007 movie. And apparently, because of political correctness, the next actor to portray 007 will be a black female actress. Now, Ian Fleming based the original 007 books on a real-life spy, Forrest Tommy Yeo Thomas, and he was one of Great Britain's greatest secret agents during World War II. His codename was White Rabbit. He was parachuted into occupied France 3 times. After one mission reporting back directly to Winston Churchill, was captured and tortured by the Gestapo, was taken to Buchenwald, but managed to escape and reach the Allied lines. Now, Bond appeared in 12 novels and 9 short stories by Fleming, as well as a lot of continuation novels, 26 movies. And now that we're consumed with political correctness, the next actor to play James Bond 007 is black actress Lashana Lynch. Now, Daniel Craig is going to make an appearance in this movie, supposedly pulled out of retirement as an advisor to help teach the new 007 the ropes, as it were. But my gut is telling me this is going to fail as badly as the feminized Ghostbusters did. Because the audience is used to a white male James Bond. Okay, out in California, do you remember this massive lawsuit against Monsanto? And it resulted in this gigantic fine against Monsanto, millions in punitive damages. The judge, in that case, reduced the payment to $80 million in punitive damages, and now another judge has reduced it further to $25 million. And Judge Vince Chabria said he was required to diminish the punitive damages because it went beyond constitutional limits set by the U.S. Supreme Court. And according to him, the higher award was constitutionally impermissible because it was nearly 15 times the compensatory damages award. However, he added that Monsanto deserves to be punished. He wrote in the ruling that the evidence presented at trial about Monsanto's behavior betrayed a lack of concern about the risk that its product could be carcinogenic. Well, yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Historian Matt Simpson, the man behind the Ancient Architects YouTube channel, has recently announced another discovery related to the famous Egyptian monument known as the Great Sphinx of Giza and the mysteries that might be lurking beneath it. He's basically postulated there is a secret chamber hidden behind the Sphinx's back door, and he's saying that the shaft accessible from the Sphinx's hindquarters leads to a chamber of natural origins that was worked by man and once served as resting place for a body. In one of his recent videos, Simpson pointed at the existence of what appears to be a burial chamber concealed underneath the Sphinx and accessible via a long vertical shaft with the entrance located in the back of the monument where its hip connects to the body. Now, what's really interesting about this is back when we were working on Stargate, we were hearing the same story about this hidden chamber in the Sphinx. So, there's a lot of interesting stories come out synchronized with movies. When the first Jurassic Park came out, it was all over the media. There was a discovery of a new species of raptor that was the same size as the ones portrayed in the movie, which were much larger than the raptors in the fossil record. And this new raptor supposedly was named the Spielbergosaur. And the story came and went. We never heard anything about it. Okay, we got to take another break here for commercials. Join us on the air, 800-313-9443, and we'll be right back.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s, along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight. Women and children alike.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And there's an interesting article over at Smithsonian Mag. And it is continuing the backlash against Netanyahu's claim that recent DNA research proves the Palestinians originated in southern Europe and that therefore they have no connection to the land. And he's drawing a lot of criticism for that, both because the original research was very sloppy and insufficient to make such a sweeping generalization, and some other things that he basically said. And this new research had nothing to say about the genetic history of Jews or Palestinians or the connection these modern populations have to the land. And supposedly, a lot of people think the word Palestinian comes Philistine, but Palestinians are not thought of as the descendants of the Philistines. It appears that Netanyahu was using this unrelated point to launch his argument. And Michael Press, an independent scholar who studies the representations of archaeology in Israel and the Palestinian territory, says, to me it seemed like it just provided another opportunity, even if tangential, to take a swipe at the Palestinians. And it's hard to blame the author, said Netanyahu's use of the study really was a non sequitur. The authors of the study did not wish to comment, but apparently are now preparing a formal response to Netanyahu's statements. Now, Israel has a long history of trying to use archaeology and other sciences to justify its possession of the lands of Israel. And a lot of it is very questionable. When you look at Masada, where there's this story about this band of Jews who, basically fought to the last man against an invading army. But if you look at the actual archaeological evidence, a lot of those bodies were buried with pig bones, which is something that Romans would do. But certainly Jews would not. And then there was that gentleman, Oded Golan, who forged a temple staff, a pomegranate temple staff, and the Jehoash tablet, both of which were claimed to prove the existence of the first and second temples. All right, we're going to take a break for station identification. I'm going to try and get rid of these hiccups, and I'll be right back.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Give us a call. Share what's on your mind with us today. And over at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's office, her chief of staff is admitting that the Green New Deal is all about socialism, not climate change. And this sort of dovetails with that statement we got from the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change yesterday, that, yeah, this whole climate thing is all about redistributing wealth. So that's what's behind it all. Now, we posted an article on whatreallyhappened.com about how we are, in fact, going to a new solar minimum. That it's going to be probably as bad as the Maunder minimum, which triggered the Little Ice Age. So I keep telling Claire we better buy some really warm clothes for Indiana, because it's going to get cold over there. But yeah, it's all about socialism. It's all about redistributing the wealth. It's a con game. It is a con game. Over in the Congo, they've had an Ebola victim who has slipped through 3 checkpoints unnoticed to reach Congo's largest city, Goma. And this is a lakeside city of roughly 1 million people. It lies on the border with Rwanda. And Goma is more than 220 miles south of where Ebola was first detected a year ago, is the largest city to be affected by the outbreak. So far, Congo has seen more than 2,500 people infected by the disease, nearly 1,700 killed. And all it's going to take is for one of these undetectable carriers to get on an airplane, and this thing will be global. They can't seem to get a handle on this. Alrighty, last April, SpaceX had this incident, if you will, where they were doing a ground test, and the spacecraft exploded. And SpaceX has now carried out an investigation and announced what caused the spacecraft to explode. They're saying a valve accidentally leaked some of the vehicle's propellant, which started a chain reaction that caused the spacecraft to burst apart. And now that the cause has been identified, SpaceX says it is replacing these parts in all future versions of the vehicle to make sure this does not happen again. Well, these things happen. If you go back and you look at the history of America's space program, and with all the documentaries on about Apollo 11, you can see it. There were a lot of explosions, a lot of rockets that had to be blown up by the range safety officer because they'd get going in the wrong direction. They were just in a rush and just trying to get the thing going, and there were a lot of problems here. Okay, now, if you have bought a Whirlpool, Maytag, GE, or other dishwasher manufactured and sold in the U.S. in the last 5 years, you may have noticed two things. One, they run forever, for hours. And even when the washing cycle stops, your dishes are still dirty. And according to technicians, the reason for this are federal regulations saying that if you want the dishwasher to work, you need to run hot water before starting the cycle, and you have to pre-wash your dishes. Well, if you're having to pre-wash your dishes, what's the point of having a dishwasher? So apparently, this all goes back to the Obama administration, which set new energy and efficiency standards in 2013 that basically made dishwashers totally ineffective. Now, 2 years later, manufacturers tried to push back against the regulations that doubled cycle times without improving cleaning power. A March 2015 letter from GE to the U.S. Department of Energy tried explaining the proposed rules were based on flawed assumptions and risked creating a standard with that was negative on consumers on the viability of dishwasher manufacturers. Now, they've obviously made progress on that because we had to replace the dishwasher here 2 years ago. We got an Amana, and it works great. So what can I tell you? Okay. Over in Crete, first of all, we're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining a network. Over in Crete, a man has confessed to killing this American scientist. And apparently the 27-year-old local man was motivated by sexual satisfaction, frustrated with his own life, and he ran Suzanne Eaton down with his car before raping her and then leaving her body in that former Nazi bunker. And forensic evidence showed suffocation as a cause of death. Further forensic examination presented that the body had many broken ribs, face bones, and multiple injuries at both hands. So the suspect told police he spotted Eaton walking on July 2nd, near the town of Chania as she took a break between events at a conference on the island that she was attending for the fourth time. So the man said that he hit her twice with his car to render her unconscious before putting her in the trunk to transfer to the abandoned World War II era bunk, which he entered via the ventilation shaft. It was not clear exactly when or where the sexual assault took place before the suspect abandoned Eaton in the cave. And police have said they believe she was already deceased when she was left in the cave. So that one has been solved here. Little article, this is from Investment Watch blog, and it's talking about all the crumbling infrastructure. There's the New York power outage, 5 hours, And Con Edison is saying there could be more coming in the future. They're not saying what caused it. One report is it was a transformer explosion, but Con Ed is saying it's entirely possible more could happen, because the infrastructure isn't up to the load being put on it by the New Yorkers. And this is another aspect of the illegal immigration problem. They're pouring into this country 26 million so far, according to estimates. They're using the water system. They're using the electricity. It was never designed to handle those additional people. So they're talking about the New York City power outages, the failure of the European GPS satellites, and just saying that it seems like a lot of tech is just collapsing at an increased rate. And it does seem like that. And in a way, it's a lot like ancient Rome. Ancient Rome built a lot of amazing works like the aqueducts. And then as they began to decline and went into debt, they couldn't maintain them anymore. And they began to fail. And it looks like we're seeing the same thing here in the United States when you look at all the internet outages that are taking place. Okay. Lindsey Graham is out there saying that 60 different nations are sending people here illegally. It really is out of control. It really is out of control. Okay, over in, not sure exactly where this is taking place. Let me click the page. Alrighty. This happened over in Great Britain, and apparently, basically, it is this man who is transgender, and he's gone to court to be registered as the father rather than the mother on his child's birth certificate. And apparently the judge has ruled he can go ahead with this. So apparently this transgender man started out as a woman, and now he's got this kid and he wants to be listed as the father. Apparently a Marine Corps veteran has been denied entry to the U.S. Because of a citizenship interview. I would suggest go down to Mexico, learn to speak a little Spanish, and just walk across the border. They'll welcome you in. They'll give you free stuff. No problems here. Okay. Kellyanne Conway has, under orders from the Trump White House, defied a subpoena by the Congress for her supposed violations of the Hatch Act. Now, the Hatch Act is a law that says that people working for the government cannot engage in partisan political activity, and apparently Congress thinks she has done precisely that. They want to talk to her about that, and she has defied the subpoena. Now they're talking about how she should be in prison, she should be fired. I don't think that's going to happen. But apparently there's something else going on over there. Down in Australia, Israelis are going to sue Facebook for $500 billion over Bitcoin market manipulations. So Facebook's dealing with a lot of problems these days. Okay. U.S. house price growth signals a bubble as recession probability rises. Now, I know when I looked earlier, the stock market wasn't doing all that good. Yeah, then it's slightly in the red. Not jump out the window, hit the street red, but a little red. Okay, apparently a security guard pulled a gun on a uniformed sheriff's deputy because the deputy was wearing a service weapon into an office of the IRS. Yeah, I imagine that would make them very, very nervous over there. Okay, we're going to take a phone call. James in Vancouver. Aloha, James. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Okay, thanks kindly. People have been talking about these comments being made by people in Congress accusing other people of racism. And nobody's used the word Bolshevik or Bolshevism. And to my mind, what they're doing is like a Bolshevik type of tactic. They're simply making accusations against their political opponents. And there's no proof, there's no basis for it. But it's a tactic that was used, I think, years ago. It's been used. And this is what I think everybody's seeing, and they're reacting to it, because I think people in America, it's not exactly their way. I was born in Canada, but I was raised in the United States for until I was about 18, 19. And this is not the way people, at least years ago, it wasn't like that in the Congress. Even though they were fighting with each other, they just, I don't think they resorted to this kind of name calling.
No, this is a new phenomenon, and not just within the Congress. And I was commenting just yesterday, we seem to have lost the art of the debate, where we can have a reasonable discussion between thesis, antithesis, leading to synthesis, and instead we just hurl bad words at each other over social media.
My maternal grandfather was an American, and so was my maternal grandmother. And my grandfather was a real New Dealer. He supported FDR.
Yep.
So, he was maybe you could say he was left. But in those days, my grandmother, on the other hand, was a Republican. But in those days, you could have a conversation. You could, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
This is what you could disagree, and everybody, kept on with their lives, and it was okay. But this new element, which has come into America, this is something that I think everybody's got to watch and be careful of. So, anyway, that's it. Thank you for taking my call.
Well, thank you very much for the phone call. And yeah, you're absolutely right. This is not the way America used to be, where we just scream at each other, you're a Nazi, you're racist, you're an anti-Semite. And that's really not a discussion. It's not a discussion at all. Okay, apparently in an effort to fix the pensions problem, Congress is now sticking the U.S. taxpayers with a $6 trillion liability. So, again, they're kicking that can down the road. All right. Apparently somebody is still editing Jeff Epstein's Wikipedia page here. Let's see. Beto O'Rourke came out with a statement. In my administration, we're going to make sure no one is criminally prosecuted for being a human being. Which I wasn't aware that anybody was prosecuted just for being a human being. But in any event, it's now irrelevant because of the last presidential poll, he got 0% of the respondents. Okay. Here's another story. This is coming out of naturalblaze.com. Virginia Tech scientists have found that in regions where oil field wastewater disposal is widespread, meaning they're injecting water down these holes, they're saying the injected water has a higher density than the deep, naturally occurring fluids. Earthquakes are getting deeper at the same rate as the wastewater sinks. Well, yeah, it makes sense. It's a lubricant. And more than that, if you're putting it down there under pressure, it's going to force the rock apart. Now, out at the 29 Palms military base, they discovered this years ago. They were disposing of some wastewater down an earthquake fault, and all of a sudden they started getting a swarm of quakes. And they stopped pumping the wastewater down the fault, and the quakes stopped. So it's not like this is an entirely new idea, and we know there's quake activity associated with fracking. So this really shouldn't come as a surprise. But I'm sure from the point of view of the oil companies, they're saying, well, we got to put this water someplace. I mean, it's contaminated with oil. It's not like anybody can drink it or cook with it. Well, maybe it needs to be cleaned up. Maybe it needs to be purified. Maybe that could be a new profit center for the oil companies. Clean water. But yeah, of course there's going to be a link between wastewater injection and quakes. We've known that for a long, long time. All right, we're coming up here on another commercial break here. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. We'll be right back.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Talk Right, the conservative app offered by TalkStream Live that caters exclusively to the conservative talk radio community. Here you'll see only talk shows and podcasts from the conservative right, all the big broadcast names and online digital shows in one place. Talk Right makes it easy to find all your favorite conservative talkers with all the upscale features you come to expect from TalkStream Live. Keep up with the fast-paced political world. Download Talk Right today from Google Play or the App Store.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And let me just clear this out of the way. Okay. Yeah, I'm just getting this message now. Over at Deutsche Bank, apparently there is now a run on the bank. Apparently $1 billion per day are being pulled out by their clients. So, yeah, it's serious problems over there at Deutsche Bank. And we have been following Deutsche Bank for a very long time. They have been involved in a certain degree of crookedness. And as I mentioned before, I had a friend who worked for Deutsche Bank who kept dropping hints about some very nasty doings over there and died. They claimed it was a suicide. I'm not convinced, but I didn't pry into it out of respect for the family. So, yeah, I think the time has come for Deutsche Bank to sort of face up to their behavior. And if enough money gets taken out of Deutsche Bank, they will collapse. The big question after that is, how will this affect world markets and world banking? Because Deutsche Bank is huge. They were considered one of the too big to fail banks, but it looks like they may fail. So be keeping an eye on them. Okay, as you know, there was an Antifa terror attack on a Tacoma ICE facility in which the gentleman was killed, and apparently he wrote this Antifa manifesto before it was all done. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez refuses to condemn this attack on the ICE facility. She thinks it's a great thing. She thinks it's wonderful here. Apparently somebody actually asked Representative Ilhan Omar if she was pro-Al-Qaeda, and she refused to answer. So, meanwhile, down in Puerto Rico, things are not pleasant. A lot of rioting going on there. And the White House has issued your typical bland statement. The unfortunate events of the past week in Puerto Rico prove the president's concerns about mismanagement, politicalization, and corruption have been valid. We remain committed to Puerto Rico's recovery and steadfast in protecting taxpayers and the Puerto Rico survivors from political corruption and financial abuse. So we'll see what's happening there. Apparently, Judge Amy Berman Jackson has declared that Roger Stone violated his gag order, and he is now banned from all social media. Okay. So, okay. Apparently, Secret Deodorant is the first sponsor to support U.S. women's claims of pay discrimination. They have donated about $500,000 to whoever it is who says they're going to fix this pay discrimination. But again, the idea of everybody getting paid exactly the same, you disincentivize achievement. And I have a problem with that, because you want people to work harder in the expectation they'll be paid more. You want them to have more skills in the expectation they'll be paid more. Now, back when it was this women's soccer team that was capturing the headlines and they were screaming that we're not being paid enough, somebody pointed out, your pay depends on how much you pull in terms of the gate, how many people come to see your games. And the fact is that the audiences for the men's soccer team are much larger and generate more revenue. And that's just the reality. If everybody's being paid exactly the same, there's no reason to try and do a better job. You just sit there and, push papers here because you're going to get the same payment no matter what. And I don't think that's a very good way to run the system. Getting a raise is a way of a company saying, we recognize that you're doing a good job for us, and we want to reward you for working harder and producing more. So, apparently the U.S. transit system has a $100 billion maintenance backlog, and that's despite the U.S. government spending $14 billion a year on subsidies for local rail and bus transit. So $100 billion maintenance backlog. We got to take a break for commercials. We got a caller waiting on the line. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux was reduced. I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75% dandruff, almost completely gone. I had occipital neuralgia at the base of my skull. I was having migraines, reduced by about 90%. Heart palpitations, my heart would kind of stall out. I would skip a beat, very uncomfortable. And when walking from downstairs going to sleep, by the time I got to the bedroom, which is just one flight of stairs, my heart was pounding, coming out of my chest. My vision was blurry. This completely solved that problem. Great product. Thanks.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of trading that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range. Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go right to the telephones to Kevin in West Virginia. Aloha, Kevin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Can you hear me, Mr. Mike?
I hear you just fine.
Cool. I wanted to say something about the terror attack and about AOC on the ICE facility. You said a little while ago that she won't condemn it. You know, she thinks it's a good thing. And then, you know, a couple I had heard, I don't remember if it was the governor of California or a mayor of where it was at, saying how it was a right-wing person that wanted to attack the immigrants or the migrants that were in the facility. I mean, this is completely utter sanity and a complete attack and, like you said, a terror thing. I mean, I thought AOC was the height of insanity, but I guess I was proven wrong on that one. I thought that was the height of insanity was when she was elected to Congress.
Yeah, a lot of people were scratching their head and wondering, first of all, how she won that primary, and second, how she won the general election, because, you know, she's really great at keeping her face in front of the news cameras, but some of the stuff she says, you have to wonder what's going on inside that brain of hers.
Sometimes I wonder if there's a brain at all. You know, I'm just the whole thing is perplexed and bedazzled, and I'm just utterly in shock and awe over the insanity. I mean, I'm pretty young, Mike. I'm just turned 35 on Friday, and you know, I don't want to live in a constitutional republic that our founding fathers had set up. I don't want to live in an empire, and this empire needs to fall. I mean, it's insane. It's just, what do we, as my generation of people, I guess you could call me a millennial, I don't know. But what do we do? I mean, we got to live here too. And I don't see no fixing this. And it kind of breaks my heart.
You know, I refuse to advocate for violent action. And so the only other option is to take the Gandhi approach, you know, nonviolent, non-cooperation, and just wait for the whole system to fall apart.
And it looks like to me it's unraveling,
yes,
you know, day by day. I mean,
yes.
It's just the Epstein thing. And, you know, like I think Art Off the Grid said the other day with the whole Epstein thing, if this isn't the straw that breaks the American public's back, you know, because it's naked and open corruption, nothing will. I mean, and I see the people in the media, like I think you had said a little while ago, the four people, the four Democratic women, this could be a distraction from that. And yeah, everything's always a distraction. We're always distracted from something that they don't want us to find out what's going on. I mean, and it's insane. I don't know what to do.
Well, I wish I had more advice for you, but I've already given it, the Gandhi approach. And because I don't want to see a revolution in this country. I don't want to see a civil war, because the wrong people always get killed and crippled in these sorts of things.
I think you told me before, maybe not directly towards me, but the first casualty of war is the truth. I mean, and then look how the truth is being assassinated all around us.
Oh, absolutely. No question.
And I wanted to say this. I hope you have a great and wonderful move to Indiana, and I'm glad that Miss Claire is feeling a lot better. And
yes.
everything, you know, I think we need to pull together as an Americans and put everything aside, all of our differences, and just be Americans. And I would love to see that. I would love to see that day, but I don't know if we can do it. I don't know. I want to see it. I really do.
Just
But it
remember,
just
all
breaks my heart
empires
that-
fall. All empires fall.
Absolutely. Well, you have a great day, Mr. Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot, Kevin. We're going to let you go and switch over to Mark in Montana. Aloha, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Thank you. You were talking a little bit earlier about the saltwater disposal and, what they were pumping downhole. Here's the problem. I worked in the oil field for a number of years down in Texas and on the North Slope and a few other places. So when you pump the oil out of the ground, you basically get three things. You get the crude oil, the gases, they're mostly natural gas, and then you get salty brine, what they call salty brine, which is the water that comes out of the ground from those wells is absolutely toxic. It's full of benzene, it's full of salt water. I mean, it would, if you laid it out on the ground, it'd kill everything. So what happened? What they used to do is they used to pump that into a lined pit, and they'd let it evaporate, and then they could scoop up what solids were left, and they could dispose of them properly. Well, environmentalism and the EPA says you couldn't do that anymore. So now they have to pump them downhole. And because of, again, EPA restrictions, you can't pump them back down the same hole that you pumped them out of. You have to pump them down a disposal well. And like in West Texas, there wasn't a lot of them. I know that in Oklahoma, there were certain areas where there was one for every 100 wells. So what you're doing is you're displacing the water into a place where it wasn't before. And you're absolutely right. You had mentioned that it fractures up the shale layers, and that's what it's causing a problem. And I've always said that. I've been saying that for 10 years, that it's not the drilling and it's not the oil and gas that they're pulling out of the ground that's causing the earthquakes. It's the disposal wells. And if you look at those disposal wells, especially in Ohio, because Ohio was, they've had a hotbed of activity for drilling. If you find where those disposal wells and you draw a circle around them, you'll find that within those circles is where the earthquakes are happening. And I've said that. Nobody believes me. It's not the pumping of the salt water per se. It's the pumping of the salt water down the hole where it wasn't before. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes perfect sense.
And I've tried to tell people that it's not that drilling. It's not the drilling at all that causes it. Now, I guess indirectly it's the drilling activity, but it's them pumping that salty brine down the hole because they can't, let it evaporate like they used to. That would be the best option when we go back to the lined pits and lay it out, let it evaporate, and then do away with the solids in a properly, disposable, like somewhere over in New Mexico where they put nuclear waste.
Yeah, or out at Hanford, what a mess they've made of that place.
Right. Yeah, but that salt water is no more toxic than what's in the ground. It's absolutely no more toxic than what's in the ground.
Yeah, but it is the pumping of it back into the ground through the disposal wells at high pressure that is fracturing the shale layers, lubricating them, and leading to these earthquakes. I mean, I have a little saved page on my browser that looks at the world's earthquakes, and I'm always seeing all these quakes around Oklahoma. Oklahoma never used to have quakes.
Right. Right, and it has to do with the disposal wells. I'm firmly convinced of it. Like I said, if you find the disposal wells, and they're fine, you do a little search on the internet, you can find where the disposal wells are. They're called SWD, saltwater disposal. And you draw a circle around it, and you'll see that almost every earthquake in these places that don't have earthquakes, traditionally, is within those circles around those disposal wells. And you're right, Oklahoma never had earthquakes until they started disposing of salt water down those holes. And you're also right about the high pressure causing the the fracturing of the shale layers. And that also allows them to pump more crap down there, more and more salt water. But pumping the salt water per se isn't the problem. It's the high pressure and pumping way more down those wells than was there originally.
Yes.
So I think that they could probably fix it, again, by going back to the old way of doing it, where they lined a pit next to the well. They pumped that salty brine out into the pit. Most of the stuff that's in that salty brine will evaporate, and the sun will destroy a lot of it. And what's left is they actually used to take that salt that was left, and they'd haul it up to Michigan and those other places that put salt on the roads in the wintertime, and they put it on the roads. So I'm not a mouthpiece for the industry, but I do work in the industry, so I know a little bit about it. And I think that if they went back to that old way, the problem is that you had mentioned water reclamation. If you want to pay about $50 a gallon for gasoline, you could start throwing more environmental stuff on it. That's my opinion. The more environmental stuff that you throw into the industry, the more that it's going to get passed on to the end consumer.
Oh, yeah, it's always passed on to the end consumer.
But as a company, especially, a publicly held company, I mean, do you want to suck up the cost of doing that kind of stuff? I'm a stockholder in a couple companies. I want my bottom line to look good, but I also want them to be environmentally responsible. And when you start getting into setting up water reclamation systems, that's not good. Plus, where are you going to put the water? You have to pump them down those wells at high pressure. You can't just dump them into the Pecos River.
Well, again, I think the villain in all of this is the Environmental Protection Agency, which has just made a whole series of bad decisions, one after the other, because, as you said, the way they used to do it was working just fine, and the EPA says you can't do that, and then they mandate an alternative method of disposal, which it turns out to be causing these earthquakes.
Exactly. And again, it goes back to the inefficiency and the ability of these government agencies to be pressured by environmental groups, other groups also. I'm not saying that the oil industry doesn't do the same thing. What I am saying is that they can allow themselves to be pressured. And that's what's happening. The environmental groups are pressuring them. Oil companies are pressuring them. The Save the Whale groups are pressuring them. And by the time it's all done, it all goes to court, which costs we the people more money. And eventually, depending on who the judge is, they're going to probably side with the environmental groups. The old way really did work well. And it was the best that we have. I'm not saying it's the best, but it's the best that we have.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the information and the update. We're going to let you go here and switch over to Ken in New York. Aloha, Ken. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Thank you for taking my call. When I was listening to you before talking about the dishwasher, I started thinking about something else. I was thinking about the CAFE standards on cars. You're familiar with that? About the fuel, corporate average fuel. Okay. I'm wondering, is that the new cars today appear to be made like tinfoil and plastic.
Yes.
I see an accident. Okay. And I'm wondering, is it the fuel economy that drives this, or is the manufacturer just making it cheaper? Because I seen an accident about a month ago, and I noticed something about it I didn't notice before. A car got hit in the side. It looked like to be fairly new, and the skin was peeled back. It was like torn back, and I saw the frame, and the frame looked like it was perforated in manufacturing. Is that to save metal, or is it to cause crumpling?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I mean, when I was a kid, cars were built to basically try and survive a collision undamaged. But it was realized that the passengers inside would basically bounce around. And so the idea was to make the cars crumple to reduce the amount of G-force on the occupants. And in doing this, of course, the frames became perforated. This actually saved metal for the manufacturers. They made the parts a lot thinner. So it was a combination of the making the cars easy to crumple, supposedly the idea being that the car would not survive the collision, but that you would, and along with just making the cars less expensive.
I'm looking for a classic. I'm tired. I just threw a perfectly good car away recently because of marginal oxygen sensors and marginal catalytic converter. Threw a whole bunch of codes up, and it would have cost $1,200 just to get to second base to find out the rest of what was wrong with it. And the structural, and I'm not sure that you can. Doesn't there come a point where you can trade safe for financial ruin? Because you can get a pickup truck today that costs $50,000-$60,000, and one little bump and the car's practically destroyed. Especially if you're leasing it, which I wouldn't anyway. But it's gonna be a terrible financial burden.
Well, generally, you would think that a pickup truck is going to be built a little bit more sturdy than a street sedan. Again, it's just about more money and getting you to sign that loan agreement. The cars are designed to basically only last between 5 and 8 years, depending upon the price, with the idea that, yes, you're going to buy a new car somewhere down the road. And leasing is becoming more and more popular by the auto companies because it basically commits you to renewing the lease every so many years.
I just like to mention one thing before I go, is that I was looking on Craigslist and looking at cars, and I saw a pickup truck, and it said it looked like it was fairly new, and it said $759. I went and looked inside the ad, and there was a guy begging people to take over his payments of $759 a month.
Well, you're going to see a lot of that. People have committed to these car loans, and all of a sudden they lose their job, or they have to take a job at lower pay, and they get into trouble. And actually, that would be a wonderful opportunity for somebody who wanted that truck. But the cost of living is getting very high. That's why we're moving to Indiana. We literally cannot afford to live here in Hawaii anymore. And we're starting to look at Indiana and realize the cost of living is going to be much lower down there. Anyway, listen, Ken, need to let you go. Need to take a break for commercials. Back with another phone call after these few words.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. Airoutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. Airoutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to Airoutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at Airoutfitting.com.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far 5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program today. We're going to go back to the phones. Al in West Virginia. Aloha, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. I just wanted to recap on that, on the oil wells here, the Marcellus shale drilling. There's a lot of that going on here. It has been for years. And what they're doing here is they're after they frack with this what they're putting in the well, which is the chemicals in the water. Then they bring it back up and they separate the sand from the brine, which is the liquid, and all the chemicals. They take the liquid to big pits. They put it in these pits. Supposedly they're going to, defuse whatever is in them and, treat them. And which this one right down the road from me, a few miles, is right beside of a water treatment plant that for drinking water, believe it or not. Doesn't make sense.
Good
but
planning.
The sand they're putting in these steel boxes, and these steel boxes are about probably 10 foot by 8 foot and 8 foot wide to fit on these semi-trailers. And they haul them right in the middle. They're sealed up tight, and that's what they fill the sand in. And they're taking them out of state somewhere. I was told Ohio, but I don't know for sure. Now, the sand, supposedly, which the water and sand was all mixed together, is supposed to be highly radioactive because the deeper that you go into the earth, there's more radiation. Now, and I do know that the people with these plants, with the brine plants, because I have friends there that's guards, they have radiation meters, and every truck that comes in there with the brine, with the liquid part, checks them trucks, and if they're too high, then they won't let them in. But that's what's going on around here, anyways. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Well, thank you for the information there. And yeah, when you're dealing with radiation, that can be really very, very tricky. Nobody knows what to do with this stuff. We've got that mess out there in Hanford. They're trying to clear that up, but it's got to be put somewhere. And that's always the big problem, because the NIMBYs will come out, the not in my backyard people, and we can understand why they don't want the radiation near their homes, because there really is no such thing as a safe level of radiation. But as far as the brine component, if that other caller, Mark, was correct, those containers you're talking about are being sent somewhere else where the water can be pumped into a disposal well.
Right. I don't know what they're doing with the sand, but I know what they're doing with the brine here. And you could go on Google Earth actually, and you could see the pits. They're huge. They're like they're like small lakes, and they're lined, and they're pumping it in there. I guess they evaporate as much as they can is what they're doing, and then how they're decontaminating it, I have no idea. Which I don't see that happening.
All right. Well, Al, thank you very much for the phone call. We got to let you go. We're at the end of the program. Stay tuned for John Stedmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please share what you learn here on the program with everybody else that you know. Use email, face-to-face, bring back the sneaker net. Please donate to Republic Broadcasting. Please donate to whatreallyhappened.com. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.